I want to address this drone thing first and foremost, because this has been a big thing, and I've been kind of waiting all last week before I started to address it. But now they starting to get drone sightings in Ohio. So let's get into it, y'all.
An alarming drone incident that forced one of the U.S.'s most critical Air Force bases to close its airspace for several hours. This happened at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base over the weekend in Ohio. And just in, new air traffic control audio obtained by military news website The War Zone of the moment it happened.
Med Flight 8 Patterson Tower, use extreme caution for heavy UAS movement on the base. Security forces is handling the situation, and I gotta keep the lights down so that security forces can see.
Ohio, now the latest of several states to report drone concerns as scrutiny over the federal response is building. This morning, lawmakers are demanding government officials do more and explain more after weeks of suspicious sightings.
I've had briefings, as I've said, that makes me feel confident based on those briefings that there's not an imminent threat to public safety, but it doesn't answer the question, where are all these drones coming from that people are seeing, and why aren't we doing a better job of tracking them and understanding that? It can't be the Wild West of drones out there in Jersey or anywhere else. We got to get to the bottom of this, and people deserve answers.
And ahead, we'll speak to more lawmakers who are concerned. CNN's Sunlen Sarfati is in Washington. Sunlen, what more is the administration planning to do? There are a lot of concerns that have turned to frustration and anger, frankly.
That's absolutely right, Sarah. Concern is growing and pressure certainly is increasing on the administration to be more transparent and clear in how they're handling this and distribute the information that they know. This incident at the Air Force Base over the weekend at Wright-Patterson, right outside Dayton, Ohio, really increasing the alarm. The fact that that airspace was closed for 4 hours. This is, as you noted, a very critical airspace. Air Force Center hosts the Air Force Research Lab, the National Air and Space Intelligence Center. So certainly concerning that a drone would be flying in that airspace overhead. And it comes as these drone sightings are only increasing, now extending beyond New York and New Jersey, but other places, especially in the Northeast. So that only increasing the alarm here. And we have seen a recalibration of sorts from the administration over the weekend, really leaning into this message that they are on it, despite, as you noted, some frustration from lawmakers demanding more answers. But we heard from the Secretary of Homeland Security over the weekend saying that he is not aware of any direct national security concerns and trying again to tell the public that the administration is on it. Here's what the Secretary had to say.
There's no question that people are seeing drones, and I want to assure the American public that we in the federal government have deployed additional resources, personnel, technology to assist the New Jersey State Police in addressing the drone sightings.
So wait a minute. The Director of Homeland Security, Mayorkas, is saying the best that he can do is to tell us that it's not a foreign threat. And they largely basing that off of the fact that all of these drones that they're seeing have FAA lights on it, meaning that it's American made and it's here and it's not necessarily operating as stealth. The best thing that they can do and the most that they can say to us is that they not sure, but they're going to deploy more resources to try to figure out what's going on and to stop these people. All right, cool. So in my limited drone flight technology life, because, I got a couple DJI drones that I've used for videos and stuff like that. What I thought happens is that there's geofencing. Geofencing is where there's basically an inability to fly drones over a specific area and that it's preventing you electronically from being able to fly a drone. So let's just say, for example, there's a big baseball game, right? And they don't want individual man-made drones flying over a baseball game, obviously for safety reasons. Then what happens is they geofence the area to prevent things from being able to come into it. Similar to a military zone, similar to an airport space, right? You don't have the ability to be able to fly these devices over these areas unless they're not certified, unless they're not licensed, unless they're not any of that, right? So you saying that you can override your geofence on your DJI. Cool. I feel you. You are more of an expert than I am. But here's my thing. I am also familiar with the fact that they are able to completely disable drones. They're able to disable drones, right? I was talking to one of my military buddies, and he was saying that in the Navy, they were able to disable drones. Either they'll shoot them down or they'll hit them with some kind of electronic blast that basically disables them and causes them to fall out of the sky. Which I was always curious as to, because, one of the ways in which people sneak things into prison systems is that they have drone delivery. And so they'll have a drone, some man-made drone, I guess that's hacked to completely remove the geofencing, to fly in products over a prison that would then drop off whatever the paraphernalia or whatever was going on inside of prison fencing. And then that would allow for the prisoners to be able to get a hold of whatever they need to get a hold of, right? But again, I'm trying to figure out, are we technologically advanced? Because it's either one or two things that's happening from my perspective. Either we are not as technologically advanced as we think that we are, to where Mayorkas is now telling us that he's going to deploy technology to find out what's going on. The only thing that they know is that it's not enemy aircraft. How do you know? Why? Because they got FAA lights? What if that's a distraction? So either they not as technologically advanced as they think that they are, or they playing in our faces. Either they're not as technologically advanced as they think that they are, or they're playing in our faces. Because if they have to shut down certain areas as a part of the military just because they have these unidentified drones that's flying over them, that's a bigger security threat than anything. And if you're telling me that the Biden administration is not on top of this, that's a problem.
So the administration, they're really trying to express that
Look
they're
how high that
increasing
drone
some
is.
resources
That ain't no
to
regular
take care of
drone.
this issue and learn more about this issue. Meantime, Republican
That's
Mike
crazy.
Waltz of Florida, President-elect Donald Trump's incoming national security advisor, really taking issue with where exactly these drone sightings are happening,
It looks like an
specifically
airplane
over
up in that
military sites and restricted airspaces. Here's what he had to say.
I think what the drone issue points out are kind of gaps in our agencies, gaps in our authorities between the Department of Homeland Security, local law enforcement, the Defense Department. It's pointing to gaps in our capabilities and our ability to clamp down on what's going on here. And we need to get to the bottom of it. And I think the Biden administration is working to do that.
I think the Biden administration is
Now,
working
lawmakers on both sides, though, Sarah, are certainly expressing very vocal frustrations on the part of the administration here for what they believe is not being as transparent as they would like, and calling for new regulations over drones. So this certainly is going to be something, Sarah, we are going to see on Capitol Hill this week. All this talk about the drones and the concerns over the security.
Senator Rafati, thank you so much for that good reporting. Appreciate it. Kate?
Also this morning, 2 men are in custody after police say a drone came dangerously close, is how they describe it, to Boston's Logan International Airport. And a third person is now believed to be on the run. CNN's Gloria Pezmino has more.
We are still waiting to hear more about what was behind these arrests, but what we do know so far is that an officer spotted the drones and then was able to deploy drone detection technology to identify the drone history, the owners, and the locations from where they were being operated from. That led the police department to Boston Harbor Island. This is a largely uninhabited part of Boston, and once police arrived there, they were able to arrest 2 people. They initially tried to flee on foot, but they were eventually captured. One of them had a drone in their backpack, and another is believed to have fled using a small vessel, a third person who the police are still looking for. Now, we don't know how much we are going to learn as a result of these arrests just yet, and whether or not it will explain some of the sightings that have been reported in Boston. But the fact that the police department was able to use technology is certainly something that a lot of law enforcement officials and representatives across many of these different communities are talking about. Here in New York, Governor Kathy Hochul also telling us that the state is receiving some additional resources from the federal government after some drone sightings resulted in an airfield having to be shut down over this past weekend because of drone sightings over airspace at a local airport. Now, Governor Kathy Hochul issued a statement on Sunday saying, in part, in response to my calls for additional resources, our federal partners are deploying a state-of-the-art drone detection system to New York State. This system will support state and federal law enforcement in their investigation. Now, something we're not clear on just yet is exactly what kind of technology New York is going to be receiving, if it's going to be anything like what Boston deployed and helped them to find the drones and conduct those arrests. I have been asking about this technology, but I've been told that because this is now an issue of national security, the state is not going to share more information about what the technology is or where it will be deployed. However, I am told by sources familiar with the conversations that the governor and the Secretary of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas, held a few phone calls over the weekend to discuss the need for more resources.
CNN political analyst.
I'm so confused. So wait a minute. Because obviously, I don't believe everything that's being handed out to the news or the media or is being reported. Now, I also believe that the media is not necessarily compromised, but they report on what they given to report on. Okay, so news media is a paid source, and that's the reason that they say some of the stuff that they say. But let's take it on the surface and let's assume, for the sake of conversation, that everything that they telling us is the truth and it's 100% correct. Okay, so you're telling me that two people are able to travel off to an island that is largely uninhabited with drones and vessels off the water and then deploy those drones back to solid land in the United States of America to be able to fly and deploy all of these things. Okay, cool. So for the sake of conversation, let's say that that's true. Do you know how much of a terrorist threat that is? Do you know how crazy that is to think about what could happen if somebody was to determine that they wanted to go and do something to somebody? You know how much of a problem that is if that's true? If the government is not just playing in our faces, to be able to escape on a small vessel? You know the type of damage that you could do if you're doing something like that? Come on, man. That's crazy.
Margaret Tallow joins us now. Margaret, good morning.
Good morning. I'm wearing drone green in case you've been in New Jersey. You got green, gold, and red.
They decided to go with lunch ladies today.
Oh, I hadn't thought of it like that. That's Chuck Schumer for you, right, with props.
That's some high-tech property there. That will get to the bottom of it.
It is, there does seem to be a sense, I think, that people feel that the federal government must know more about these drones.
They really know more about it, and they're not saying what it is, right? That's one of the threads here. Look, this has got all the elements of like a Close Encounters of the Third Kind story, right? Is it the Iranians? Is it a secret intelligence security check by the government? It's classified, so they can't tell you about it. Is it one of 800,000 drones that are registered to the FAA?
Shout out to Steven
flying
Tucker.
Around largely unregulated. So the bottom line is there's been no definitive, decisive explanation about this yet. There is a bunch of legislation that either regulates it or would expand authorities for different parts.
I think it's the government playing in our faces. I don't have to see the lunch lady give me anything more than what it is that I'm seeing. I think that it's the government playing in our faces, but I also believe that notoriously our government is slow to start to address the issues with regard to infrastructure, regulation, drones, technology, self-driving roads, all of that stuff. They so slow. They always playing catch up and they so slow. So I'll stay on top of this. I'll keep y'all in the loop of what's going on.